Welcome to Jumpstart Your Joy, a podcast that looks at the inspiration, intention, action, and choices that you can make to bring more joy into your life, into the world, and into other people's lives. This is your host, Paula Jenkins.
Welcome to episode 218. On this week's show, I'm really excited to be revisiting a conversation that I had with Marla Cilley, who is also known as the Flylady. This episode originally aired way back in season 1, and I pulled it out of the archives this week because it ties into the next solo cast that I'm going to be doing for you all in a coming week. I love that in this episode, Marla explains how to make lasting transformation in your life. And the way that she approaches this is by taking small steps and stringing them together to create habits, which then lead to bigger change in your life. And you're going to hear all about that in this episode. And I just love this conversation so much. I actually had Marla back 3 times in season 1 because I love her and what she has to say. Before we get to the conversation, I want to give you all a very warm welcome and say thank you so much for tuning in this week. And of course, always, it is full tilt holiday season here in the US. And as you can probably tell from my voice, I've got a cold. So I hope that you are all able to slow down a little bit and enjoy the season. If you want to find out more about Jumpstart Your Joy, you can find everything you need to know over at the website, which is jumpstartyourjoy.com. And if you want to find the show notes for this specific episode where I link to some of the things that we talk about, you can find it at jumpstartyourjoy.com/Marla3, the number 3. It'll also be on the homepage this week and for a little while here at the end of 2019. I also have a couple really exciting announcements going on here at Jumpstart Your Joy. Last week, I, for the very first time, launched a second episode in the week where I'm looking back at my conversation with Jennifer Loudon, which was episode 216, and I'm sharing the inspiration, intention, and action that I can take and that you could take for your own life from that conversation. I think it's a really interesting way to revisit some of the aha moments that I've had as I've talked to a guest. Here's the thing. That is going to be for subscription only. So if you want to get in on the goods there with these bonus episodes that I'm releasing, you either need to get on the newsletter where I also talk about the inspiration, intention, and action you can take for your everyday life, or you just need to subscribe on one of the many podcasting apps that are out there, including Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. Those are all free. You don't have to pay to subscribe to any podcast. That's one of the great things about it. So go check it out and get on the list, and you can get access to those extra bonus thoughts that I'm going to be putting out each and every week. So the other exciting thing that's coming up in mid-January is if you want to start your own podcast, I'm going to be holding my Jumpstart Your Podcast class, which is, of course, a beloved event that happens maybe once or twice a year. You go from getting an idea of what you want for your show, and you have any kind of a service-based business. I can tell you it does wonders because you're really making a connection with someone and they feel like they get to know you before they reach out. And it's made all the difference in a lot of my clients. In fact, all of them right now have come from the show itself. So if you want to get in on creating your own podcast, you can visit the site. There's a button right in the middle. We have live on the phone conversations where you'll get to talk to me and take your idea for your show, create a mission statement, and get it going in 8 to 10 weeks. So if that's one of your big things for 2020, I invite you to join me. And please, if you have any questions, you can also email me at jumpstartyourjoy@gmail.com. So let's get into this episode. There's a future solo cast that will be coming up all about how we can approach things from a small standpoint and how taking baby steps are really the key to lasting change. And so I realized in looking back over the catalog that this conversation and Marla Cilley's whole point of view on how to make transformation in your life was really and continues to be a foundation for some of this thinking that I'm also developing. The thing that I love about the Flylady, as she is known, you can find her stuff at flylady.net, is a lot of her work is around home maintenance and cleaning. So she does zoned cleaning, which means you take your home and break it up into zones, and then you clean a little bit each week. But the other thing that she talks about is how do you chip away at some of the thinking that's holding you back from making the change that you want to have in your life and in your home. And she's some of the very early inspiration, along with Wayne Dyer, that started to ease me into the self-improvement world. And so it's really a delight to get to share her. And it was really a delight to have her on the show for 3 episodes. So I hope you love this. And I hope that you can see ways that you can marry inspiration, intention, and action in your life based on the things that she's sharing. Let's go to the show.
Thank you so much, Marla, for coming back for what will be a 3rd episode. It's great to have you on Jumpstart Your Joy.
I'm glad to be here.
Last time we talked about both finally loving yourself and the Flylady, I'll call it a program, and then more in depth about your book and some other things that you've been working on recently. But we didn't get into habits and routines. So I was wondering if you would share about that today.
Well, we've been called everything from a program to a cult. So I like to think of it as a ministry. I never thought of it that way until a couple of years ago. But what we're trying to do is to help these women to find their place, what they're supposed to be doing with their lives. And as long as their homes and their lives are in chaos, they can't find out what their purpose is. Why God put them here on earth. And this falls right in line with what you're doing with your coaching, is finding your joy, because I live by the rule to find joy in everything I do. And this was my motto many years ago before Flylady even started. And somebody asked me, what was my motto, my personal motto? And I thought, well, I don't have one. And then it just came out to be a devoted, loving wife to my sweet darling, and to find joy in everything I do. And what I realized was that if I find joy in everything I do, then I don't need that first part to be a devoted, loving wife, because I am when I'm finding that joy. And, joy, it's just the basis of everything. Even finding joy in sweeping a floor or mopping a floor. It's all about having fun. And that joy comes through in what I do with the ladies and what we're doing today. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so funny. I know, I have a 5-year-old, and he loves to mop the floors because it's fun. And I'm like, well, have at it. 'Cause if you're finding that to be fun, I want to encourage that in him. So,
well, there's nothing more fun than putting some shaving cream down on the floor, or making some foamy stuff out of baby shampoo and the blender and throwing it down on the floor and letting them slip and slide in their bathing suits.
I love it. Yeah.
It's just, when you can make something fun, it'll get done, and when you can let little ones do it for you. I mean, they're right down there on the floor, and they have a ball doing it.
They do. Yeah, it's funny. And I'll post pictures of him doing the cleaning things, and people are like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, he thinks it's fun, so of course he wants to do it.
Well, you never use cleaning house, washing dishes, or anything as a punishment. If you do, you have ruined the child for his entire life.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes a drudgery. And I got a testimonial one time from a lady, and she was standing at her kitchen sink washing dishes, and tears were just rolling down her face. And it finally came to her. She says, why am I crying? Why am I? And she realized that as a child, the only time she was ever did dishes was when she was being punished. And when she had that realization, it clicked that she's not being punished. She's been blessed with this wonderful family who dirties up dishes and dirties up laundry. And she has the ability to bless them by doing the dishes.
Yeah, and it is really all in that mindset of, if it feels kind of overwhelming, or it feels like a chore or something that we have to do, then it becomes less enjoyable for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we want to eliminate chore and job and just turn it into blessings for your family. We want to eliminate the perfectionism that comes along with, I know when I was a child, I was forced to the family bathroom. We had a 1-bathroom home, and sometimes it would take 3 or 4 hours, and then it wasn't done to suit mother, and it had to be redone, and I couldn't see anything wrong with what I had done. So, that perfectionism keeps us from doing things because we're scared we'll do it wrong.
Yeah, and do you think that's where a lot of people get into the sense of feeling like overwhelmed by the amount of work, or what stops people, have you found, what stops them from starting?
What stops them from starting is the fact that they might do something wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Even joining Flylady, they think, a lot of people think that they're doing Flylady wrong. Well, the only way to do Flylady wrong is not to do anything at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even if you're reading the messages, then you're going to have a whole, we lovingly call it fly washing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get in your head, and you're going to start hearing my voice if you're listening, if you're watching my videos or hearing me on a podcast or wherever. You're going to start getting this southern accent in your brain, and you're going to say, what would Flylady do? And you would start hearing me say, I'm so proud of you, and you can do this, just 2 minutes. Anytime you catch yourself saying, I don't have time to do something, I want you to set your timer for 2 minutes and do exactly what you said you didn't have time to do. 2 minutes is better than nothing.
Yeah, and it's often totally surprising how much can get done. I mean, I know from the perspective of like unloading the dishwasher. Well, yeah, it only takes me as long as it does to make a cup of coffee. So when I'm like getting all in my head about, oh no, I don't have time or it's too much, like, no, just build it in and it gets done, and it doesn't take that long.
Well, when you're using an action like making coffee as your timer to do your floors or empty the dishwasher, anything like that you can utilize. I mean, you stick something in the microwave to heat up for lunch for 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, you can have your floors done, or you can have your furniture dusted while that's going on, instead of standing there looking at the timer, like you're on Jeopardy.
Yeah, that's funny. How do you identify what habits are, and how do you start forming them?
With our system, ministry, whatever, we practice a new habit each month. And the year starts out, and I think we covered this before, but let's go over it right quick. January is keeping your sink clean and shiny. It's also keeping your sink clean and shiny whenever you join. That's the habit you stick with. February is decluttering 15 minutes a day. March is getting dressed to lace up shoes. April is making your bed. May is moving your body. June is drinking your water. July, swish and swipe. August is a load of laundry a day. September is your before bed routine. October is paper clutter, dealing with your paper clutter and getting rid of the mounds. November is menu planning, and December is pampering yourself. And that goes through the whole gamut. And some of them are morning habits, some of them are evening habits, some of them are afternoon habits. And by the time you get through the whole year, you're piggybacking different things on the things that you have practiced for a whole month. Now, psychologists tell us it takes 21 days to establish a habit. Well, it's not true for sidetracked people. Because with our perfectionism, if we miss a day, we just throw the baby out with the bathwater. We think, well, we've messed up now and we can't do this. And so we just throw it out and we just go on to something else. What I want you to do is give yourself a little grace. Find the joy in, you messed up yesterday, but that's okay. It was a busy day, a lot of people to the house, we had a party. So what? Accept it, love yourself in spite of it, and jump right back in where we are. And that way you don't really beat yourself up. Part of flying is learning to love yourself the way you are and accepting things. This morning, I got this wonderful message on Facebook from a friend of mine who is, he has ADHD, but he's also a songwriter. And he takes his ADHD to a new level. He's changed the terminology from ADHD to making it an asset instead of a liability. Because those of us who have ADHD, and I've already proved it to you in this interview, we love it because we're not so much manic as we are excited and curious. You know, we have this curiosity about things, and we run with things, and it's just fun for us. It's a joy. It's a joy for us. It's hard on other people around us. I had a business manager one time. He said, "Marla, you can think of more things to do in 5 minutes than we can implement in 2 years."
That's awesome.
And when you embrace it instead of beat yourself up about it, you can get so many things accomplished and learn to love that part of yourself. And I use a timer to keep me focused. I mean, you heard my timer go off earlier.
Right.
Keeping me focused. I mean, I need to get up and move during the day, so I set my timer for every 15 minutes, so I get up and do something. And my timer helps me to know when to stop and to know when to start. And that's pretty much all it does. But Jerry Mills wrote this wonderful song about when he found out he had ADHD. And he's just an amazing songwriter, but he works with ADHD people all over the world. And he has learned how to embrace what would be a liability to some people to become creative and, you know, doing what God put him here to do.
Yeah. So he's found a way to harness the power of it and accept the part that some people say, oh, you should focus and you should do these things in an order. I work with clients on the same thing where it's like, well, but shouldn't I have a schedule? And I'm like, well, what do you think? Like how does it work for you best? Because the shoulds will pull us apart every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
And when you got to think, I hate lists. I mean, we've all made them. But that's why I started building a control journal, because I didn't want to rewrite the list every day, and started building one habit upon another when I got organized. My only habit to practice for that month of January was keeping my sink clean and shiny.
Yeah.
And I did it. But because I kept the sink clean and shiny, the countertops got cleared, the stove got clean, kitchen floor was clean, and the kitchen was a wonderful place that welcomes you in the morning instead of being greeted with the mystery water and dirty dishes.
Yeah.
So it gave me hope, and from that one habit, it expanded into the other habits, and I string them together. Keeping the sink clean and shiny. If I go into the kitchen and cook, I start with a sink full of hot soapy water, and I clean as I go. And I don't try to do too many things at one time. I focus on one dish. I do this. I learned this at Thanksgiving. You know, you get all this stuff going and your kitchen explodes.
Yes.
Well, you don't have to use every pot in the kitchen to cook.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to learn your style and then adapt it a little bit so that you're not making a bigger mess for yourself to clean up.
And I love what you've said about being aware that if you create a habit around something, that it does help remind you to do other pieces of it around that task, that you're kind of harnessing the good of a habit to make it a bigger picture item.
Let me tell you about my before bed routine. I have this one little, I won't call it it's a cue for me. Before I walk out of the bathroom door to go to bed, I look at myself in the mirror, and I point to my eyes, because I put these eye drops in at night. Put earplugs in. I point to my ears. I point to my nose, because I use a nose spray. And then my lips need chapstick before I go to bed, and I also need to take my medication. So I go eyes, ears, nose, mouth. That's my before bed routine and brushing my teeth. All that is rolled into looking at myself in the mirror. It's just a blink, 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 blink. And then usually every night I've either forgotten to take my meds or forgotten to brush my teeth or forgotten to put on chapstick. Last night I forgot to put the eye drops in. And it's just a simple little thing that helps me to realize I've missed a step. But I don't beat myself up. I just go do it, and then I hop in the bed. And it's made my before bed routine go much faster with that one little thing to look at. It's kind of like looking at putting the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth on Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, well, and I love that you can't miss it. Like, it's simple and built in. It takes the overwhelm out of it. Breaking it down into simple steps makes it doable, too.
And laughing at yourself because you need to look in the mirror to see if you've done it all.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. What do you think is stopping it? Perfectionism gets in the way, but I know you also talk about, I think you call it stinking thinking. Is that one of the phrases?
That's a common term for for people in 12-step programs. And
is it?
Oh yeah, it's a common thing. Stinking thinking is. I read a book many years ago, and it was by a man named Burns. I can't think of his first name, but it had a list of 10 things that were stinking thinking, and I only got through the 3rd chapter, I think, but I read that list of the stinking thinking things.
Yeah.
And it just clicked with me. And it's all about cognitive therapy. I'm not a psychologist. My sister is. And I've showed her this book, and she says, this is just plain old common sense. And I said, yeah. I didn't need anything else after that. She went on and got her PhD in it. We work hand in hand with this stinking thinking.
Yeah.
And it's catastrophizing. It's always thinking that the worst is going to happen. It's all or nothing. That's what perfectionism is. You either do it or you don't. You just give up. It's this whole list of things. And it was just such common sense for me. And I think that's why people like our system. Yeah. When things don't go quite the way I expected them to. And you get to laugh at it with me, not at me, but with me. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that is what's refreshing is because it brings it into, by starting with cleaning, that's a place to start, but it's so much more. Like, the stinking thinking goes across all sorts of things. Like, if you have a dream and you want to follow it, well, when you're aware that your brain is doing that and has that running dialogue, then lots of times it's like, oh, wait, no, I'm just making this worse than it is. If I just start, then I've started. So
right. Yeah. It's one step. I watched my husband one time. I wanted some shelves in the basement. And he had a tough job. He's retired now, so I need a little sympathy. He's been retired 7 years, and we both are working from home. I can go to the office if I need to get away, but I don't. I like to be in my little nature setting, and it's conducive for me getting a lot of stuff done and interviews, except for if my dogs bark. And when he retired, well, he was working as a judge, but he would come in every night after we'd have dinner, and he'd go down into the basement, and he'd do something. It didn't matter if it was 5 minutes or an hour. He would do something on this project of building me these wonderful shelves. Well, when he got these shelves built, he called me down into the basement, and he crawled into the shelves and reclined on them to show me how strong they were.
Wow!
And it took him, a month or so of doing something every day because they're floor to ceiling, a whole wall, but he was in project mode. He had to do one thing, and today, well, for the last 3 days, he has been in project mode. We live in the woods. 10 acres of woods. And he has been coming to the kitchen window and looking out the kitchen window at our view of the woods. And he has gone out and underbrushed. So he's cutting down little sapling maple trees and all this stuff growing on the forest floor to kind of open up the view. And it's amazing what he's accomplished with 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there with the loppers. And this project mode is really something for us to embrace because project mode it's not, with us sidetracked people, we want to get it all done. We want the house to be cleaned all at one time. We don't think we're cleaning unless we're spending 8 hours. Mm-hmm. And I found from watching him that we can get into a little project mode with our home. We don't have to spend 8 hours cleaning or all day Saturday cleaning. We can do 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 15 minutes decluttering. And, it all comes together. It might not all come together at once, but we have to recognize that's our perfectionism that wants it to all come together at once.
And that's so true. It's so funny because I'm looking out my back window and I've taken to filling our green bin with cuttings. Once a week, I just do as much as will fit into the green bin and then I'm done, right? Because, the yard's never done.
No.
It keeps growing and keeps changing. But if I can just, and that's all I can get rid of in a week. So that's just what I've taken to doing. And it's like, now it's a habit and a routine, and that's how I face it every week. And yeah, now I can notice that it looks better, but yeah, it's that if I went with all or none, there'd be no way to get rid of all of it either. Right.
You just have to sort of dive into a little area and work your way around the yard so that you're not going to make one area shine as much as the other ones aren't, So
right, yeah.
Just move it around and you'll eventually, the encroaching vegetation will go away.
Yes. Well, yeah, and that seems so true for the house, too, that it really is the baby steps of do as much as you can for this set amount of time. That's probably exactly where I got it, was from the timer. It's a contained amount of time, and I can do this much, and then I can be done.
And a lot of people like to put their headsets on and go listen to a playlist while they do something in the yard or call a friend and talk to them on the phone while they're doing it. You can piggyback a couple of things with what you're doing. Filling our heads with good stuff and allowing ourselves to have a movie day and to bless our bodies by resting sometimes is good too. So that's what flying is all about, is a system of rewards and no punishment. We don't do punishment, but it's rewards and loving ourselves through the process.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that idea too of the rest. Why do you think it is that we don't rest? Is that also perfectionism, or is it a kickback from too many to-do lists? Or
I think it's perfectionism, but it's our mothered attitude, that it's a martyred attitude with that we push ourselves to the point that we are exhausted. We have two speeds, 90 miles an hour and dead stop. And if we'll learn to pace ourselves, 15 minutes here, rest for 10 minutes, another 15 minutes on another portion, we will get much more done than we ever thought was possible by pushing ourselves. I know many years ago when I was a county commissioner, I went to a retreat up in the national forest, and I live in a beautiful area where half of our county is national forest and state parks and the Blue Ridge Parkway. I can see the Blue Ridge Parkway out my back deck. Mm-hmm. And we are the cradle of forestry. And this, I learned this early on. The head forest ranger was speaking at this retreat, and he was talking about this logger. He was a young, energetic kid, and he went out with a logging crew, and this is when they used axes. He went out with a logging crew, and he cut down 7 trees the first day. He was so happy he had cut down 7 trees. And the next day he gets up, he eats breakfast, goes out with the crew, and he only cuts down 6. And he can't figure it out. So the next morning, he skips breakfast and just heads on out. And that day, he only cuts 5. And he's just, all puzzled at what's going on. And he tried it one more day on his own. He got up an hour early. He went out, kept cutting, only cut down 4 trees. And finally, he went to the superintendent, and he said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And he said to this young man, you got to sharpen your axe. You see me every hour sit down and take the file and sharpen my axe. Not only am I resting, but I'm honing the axe to do a better job. We've got to remember that we have to take time out to just be, just relax. Yesterday was Tuesday is kind of a me day for me. So I watched chick flick. I pulled it up on Amazon and watched a baseball movie that the love of the game, and cried my eyes out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need 2 hours of tears, you know?
Yeah.
It's cleansing.
It is, yeah. Well, and it gives you, it's a base to like feel emotions that maybe, that just need to come out. Yeah.
And it's okay. We don't have to beat ourselves up because we took 2 hours and watched a movie.
Exactly.
I was at home alone. It was wonderful. I could cry without anybody making fun of me. And it was, it was my time. Mm-hmm. But I took that 2 hours and really enjoyed myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. But as women and mothers and wives, we push ourselves all the time to get everything done. And the harder you work, more things don't get done.
Right.
You're running around, spinning in your kitchen, not knowing which way to go. And you've just got to pace yourself. And remember the fable of the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah. We are taught to multitask, but obviously, even studies show that humans are not good multitaskers, even though that seems to still be a very prized skill set, in worker life, meaning if you're in a corporate setting, they push it, but.
Well, they shouldn't, because it's not effective.
Right.
I have a blue tick hound dog laying right beside me on a bed, and he likes to chase rabbits and raccoons and all kinds of stuff, but he can only chase one at a time because they get away from him. If his attention goes elsewhere, he loses the scent. So we got to learn to focus, and our timer helps us to focus. Mm-hmm. It also helps us to stop for 15
yes.
minutes.
Yes.
And you don't reset your timer and do the same thing over again. You stop and do, rest for a little bit, and then you go do something different, because we get bored easily.
Well, and do you think bored is what pulls us off the job we're on? Especially, I guess there's a couple things there, right? Like if we think we have to clean out the garage and we're going to do it 8 hours on Saturday, we're going to do it all.
Well, don't do that.
Yeah, right. Like obviously we get bored and worn out, and I guess, does it make it better? Yeah, and I'm not saying we should do that, of course.
Well,
but
what I want you to do is to go out and clean off one shelf.
Right. Yeah.
And put the stuff that you need to get rid of in the trash or in the car to give away or to take to the dump or whatever you're going to do with it. You just have to, repurpose it or whatever you're going to do. But you got to get it in the car to get to the place you're going to take it. And if you do one shelf, just like you're doing your yard, you just move around the garage one shelf at a time.
Yeah.
The same thing in your closet. Go in and pluck out 5 dresses, 5 outfits that you don't like. We can all do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want you to pull everything out of your closet and try it on.
Yeah.
We've made a bigger mess than we have time to clean up. So I just want you to go precisely pluck things off those shelves.
Right.
Last week, I got rid of shoes. I went in there with some grocery bags and got rid of about 10 pairs of shoes that either my feet didn't feel good in them, I didn't like them because they were too cutesy or whatever, and I blessed someone else with them, and they were told to bless someone else with what they didn't want.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you're bringing that up, too, because I know there's a very popular book out there right now that I think it actually says to take everything out of your closet and hold it in your hand and decide if it brings you joy, and then put back only the things that you feel really good about. But I've been so hesitant to do that, knowing that if I got everything out of my closet, it would be so overwhelming that I might feel joy for 10 minutes doing it, but then it would be like, what do I do with all this?
Well, what happens with one of my fly babies, and I get really passionate about this. People will be talking about this method, and I don't even know the name. But they start talking about it on my Facebook page, and I have told my Facebook moderators, whenever they see somebody talking about it, to ban them, because it's too overwhelming for my babies. It's I would die if I pulled everything out of my closet. I have decluttered so many clothes in the last year. I've gotten my wardrobe down to a bare minimum and gotten rid of everything that doesn't fit and doesn't look good on me. I've done it.
Yeah.
But to pull everything out and throw it on the bed or on the dresser and then turn around, it's perfectionism that wants you to see this empty walk-in closet. It's your perfectionism that plays havoc with you. And when you recognize that it's perfectionism and somebody telling you to do this, and me saying, don't do that, just pluck a few things. When you turn around and see the mess that you've created.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people when they're decluttering and I've done it for almost 20 years now. You know, you pick something up and you say, do I love you? Do I have a place for you? Do you make me smile? And do I have two of you? When you look at things from that standpoint, if you don't have a place for it, then it needs to go away.
Yeah.
If you don't love it, it doesn't make you smile. I mean, the best compliment I ever got was somebody walked in my door and they looked at our home and they said, this house looks just like you and Robert. Because we only have things in our home that make us smile.
Yeah, and I like the simplicity of that, I mean, just even to go back to the closets for a second, of taking the time that you need instead of it being someone else telling you this is the way to do it. Because, once again, that kind of does feed into perfectionism, that there is a right and a wrong way to do it.
Well, I'm telling people this is the right way to do it, too. There's a good medium here.
Yeah.
You can try it this other way, but when I get the testimonial that says, I should have listened to you, I pulled everything out of my closet. I had this happen with somebody's library one time.
Oh, gosh.
She pulled all the books out of her library to dust them. And if I did that, my husband would have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Because he has the books organized just the way he wants them. And I have one shelf. So, and my one shelf consists of the books that I've written in different languages. So,
yeah.
But I have other shelves in my front bedroom. So this is his library, but I'm not going to mess with it. If I want to dust the books, I take a can of air, spray air, and spritz them real good, and take the feather duster and do that does the top of the books. And if I ever want to clean behind the books, my son can do that after we're dead and gone.
I love it. Sorry, I just snorted. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, well, and it's true because, books, oh my gosh, what goes on? I don't know if you have insight on this, but somehow I get emotionally attached to books for no good reason, and then it's so hard to declutter them. I don't even get what's going on there.
Well, if you have a place to donate them where you can bless someone else, we have the AAUW that has a book sale every summer, and Robert went down and bought a half a dozen books for $2 a piece or something. But he also took books, and he takes books. He moves through things, but he has his favorite books. Yeah. And that he can look things up and read me poetry and all kinds of wonderful stuff. And it's just comforting. It's surrounding yourself with things that bring you joy, that bring you comfort, that knowing that you can take that book off the shelf and smell that book and know that it was your mother's book, or, I have my father's Bible sitting right beside me. I got it out yesterday, and, knowing that he held this book, he wrote in this book, and it's okay to keep those things, but not everything is special.
No, and I think that's where I've gotten to as well, is that there's some things that don't need to be precious, is the word that I use for it, is that it's okay. You know, a lot of even my son's baby stuff, like, I don't need to be precious about it. Like, the jumperoo or the pack and put. Yes, he was a tiny baby in them, but they could go on to bless somebody else, and I don't need to be too attached.
I would keep a couple of them to pass down to grandchildren.
Yeah. We are doing that. I have a box of, like, the special stuff. Because it's hard to let go of some of the tiny things.
Well, it's hard for mommy. And if the kids see you having a hard time letting go of things, they start having a hard time letting go of things. Get him a Rubbermaid tub that's about the 6-gallon one that, you know, stands up about 18 inches. Mm-hmm. And let that be all he can keep. As he grows up, not everything is important in the bin. And he has to make room for the important stuff in there.
Yeah.
Now, that stuff, that blankie or whatever that he put in there when he was 2 and he let go of, mommy might not want to let go of it. So you might have to put it in your bin.
Right. There could be an overflow bin, yes. For some things, it's just not, you can't let go of, Yeah,
you can't. And it's okay. And we just have to love ourselves and know that it evokes a memory in us. But, you know, we do have cameras on our phones. We have cameras with us every single day. And you can take, and, you know, that's the beauty of the, you know, smartphone world we live in. We can take a picture of something, and there we have it.
Yeah, and getting creative with how you store those memories, too. Like, I know some people have said, but it's one of my favorite shirts. But then I saw someone take a picture of the shirt, just the pattern on the shirt, and then make it as the matting behind a picture of the kid wearing the shirt. And it was like, oh, look at that.
Oh, how cute.
Yeah. So it's like if you can think of creative ways just to put it back into your world and your home, it's neat.
Now, if you're creative and you like to sew, you could take the T-shirts that your husband won't let go of because it was a concert he went to and it was an amazing concert.
Yes.
You could cut out the pictures. I'm going to cut out the front of the T-shirt or the back or wherever it is, fronts and backs maybe, and put them together into a little throw for the man cave.
Yes. I love it. That's an awesome idea.
Same thing for the kids. I mean, baseball games they've gone to, you know, you could do one, you know, I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and you know, you could do one of all your things you came home with as souvenirs that were shirts and T-shirts and stuff from the different seasons. Could be fun, but they become clutter if you don't do something with them. You may have to give them to somebody to make that for you to get it done.
Yeah, and I've definitely been at that point where I'm like, oh, I have all my sorority T-shirts, and then it was like, now they've been in the closet for 15 years, so yeah. Well, the point at which realizing, hey, it's okay to let them go to someone else to make the thing you want, right. and not being I've got to get out the sewing machine and all that.
Yeah, you had the idea, and you just pass it on to someone to get it done. You might have to pay money for that, but so what?
Yeah.
If you want to keep it, then you need to turn it into something that is going to be useful. I love the idea of the matting behind the picture. That's just adorable.
Yeah, it was. That was cute. And then the picture of the kid wearing it or whatever the special event was. Yeah. Well, yeah. So thank you for coming back. I don't know if you have any, I mean, I know last time we talked about your book. How is that going? If you want to.
Well, it's still going.
Yeah.
It's still going. I need to get in that project mode and do something every day on it.
Yeah.
But I haven't done that. This summer's kind of been, we had a lot of traveling this spring, so I've just been kind of being kind to myself this summer.
Nice.
Just relaxing and writing a little and, you know, just doing my daily work and keeping the house in order and taking care of these critters, which Robert does most of it. They just look at me like, what are you doing now?
Aw, that's wonderful. Yeah. And any other, I don't know, final words? I usually ask 2 questions, but you've already answered them. So I don't know if you have any final ideas on how to fight overwhelm or, you know, get into a place that feels, you know, more like for people.
Well, a lot of times when we feel overwhelmed, it's because we've made this big list, and this big list looks at us and says, why aren't you doing me? So we got to break it down into 1, 2, 3 things, maybe 5 things or 6 things, and put them on a little slip of paper. Write each one on a little slip of paper, or write the list down and put 6 numbers in a bowl and pick out a number and do that on your list.
Mm-hmm.
You will not believe how much stuff you can get done.
Yes. Yeah.
We kind of call that Flylady Bingo.
I love it.
And I do this at Thanksgiving too. I have 12 tiles. Robert made me these little wooden tiles. Mm-hmm. And I put 1 to 12 on there. And Michelle and her husband come over for Thanksgiving dinner. And when she walks in the door, she comes early because we have dinner at 4. And she said, "What can I do to help?" And I said, there's a list and pull a number out of the bowl. And we can just back and forth and get so much stuff done you wouldn't believe it.
That is awesome. That's fun. That would be great for any party, like any time. That's awesome.
Anytime. You just sit down and make a list of 6 things and then put those 6 numbers in a bowl and just have fun with it. It's all about finding joy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes I do a reverse scavenger hunt. I pick up one thing, like right now my coffee cup is still sitting on my coffee table. Isn't that what it's for?
Yeah.
It's sitting on my coffee table. It needs to go into the dishwasher. Well, I'll take it to the dishwasher, and then I'll look around to see if there's something there that could go someplace else. And I'll do it for a count of 5 till I've done 5 items, or I'll set the timer for 15 minutes and do it till the timer goes off. And you can get things put away, but you've made a game out of it. And right. when you can get creative, and we are creative people, our brains never stop coming up with fun ideas. And when you get into that mode of coming up with fun, wow, your house is going to look wonderful.
I fully agree. Well, thank you so much, Marla. It's always a joy to speak with you. So thank you for coming back, and yeah, take care. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you want to find out more about this episode, including links to the things that we've talked about, you can find the show notes at jumpstartyourjoy.com. And you can search for this episode right up there in the right-hand corner of the website, and you'll find it. While you're on the website, I know you're going to want to sign up for my weekly newsletter, which is 3 Joyful Things. It's where I take a look and give you guys the behind the scenes of what I'm really thinking about with each episode, including the inspiration, intention, and action, along with the choices that you can make in your own life to bring some of the things that each guest or I share into your everyday life. So it's a lot of fun. You can find the sign up for that off the homepage or within the show notes of every episode. And I would love to connect with you. I hang out a ton on Instagram, where my handle is Jumpstart Your Joy. You can also find the Facebook page for this podcast at Jumpstart Your Joy. So I hope you guys will come on back next week. And until then, I hope that your days are filled with so much joy.